There are some nations in the world that have had Catholic monarchs for 500 years, 600 years, mainly because the people have wanted them. So what happens when that happens is God hands you over. He gives you what you want. You've decided that you want to, because God never raised up the Vatican. He would never support it because they tell you to call the Holy Father, Holy Father. And God said, call no one here, Father. They can write that off all they want. That's the way it is. So when you decide to pledge your loyalties to that, then God says, okay, that's what the country seems to want, the majority of the country. So Luxembourg, Monaco, Belgium, and Spain all have been Catholic monarchies for 500-600 years. You know what? All of them suffered the Holocaust. Many countries, most of them in some ways being involved in it or being invaded by Nazi Germany. And most of their people, none of the Jews ending, like a small amount of survivors of Jews. But they helped transport the Jews. They collaborated with the Jews. Of course they would. The Vatican released their own documents saying they knew about the death camps. Do you think that that is a church that God will allow to stand? Oh, no. No, he won't. I don't care who wants to make it great again. God will not let it stand. God will burn it. God will come against the gates of hell of that church. Do you think that God cares whether you like it or not? It's his rules. People were, people should have known and should have understood and not listen to what the Vatican teaches, but instead go to the Holy Spirit, know God through the Bible. Learn from England. God did not allow England to become a monarchy. And what resulted is they did not suffer like those other countries did. So then when false monarchies get in and claim to be Catholic, God will get rid of them. God will make sure they're like in England, the people wanted King James II removed. God made sure that happened because God agreed. But in Monaco, Spain, Belgium, and Luxembourg, no, when the people say this is what we want, then they live under all that corruption because all of those, every single one of those countries, their monarchies, their government, all involved in a bunch of corruption. But the biggest telltale sign to you should be that you suffered the Holocaust. Luxembourg was occupied by Nazi Germany in 1940, later annexed in 1942. Before the war, about 3,500 to 3,900 Jews lived in Luxembourg, many of whom were refugees fleeing Nazi persecution. The Nazi regime imposed Nuremberg race laws, forced Jews to wear yellow badges, and encouraged or forced many immigrant or to be deported. Around 1,000 to 2,500 Luxembourg Jews were murdered, mostly after deportation to ghettos and extermination camps. Only 36 Jewish deportees from Luxembourg are known to have survived. 36. The Nazis used Fürstenbüren transit camp in northern Luxembourg as a collection point for deportations. See, this is God not protecting your country. That's the danger with allowing a Catholic monarchy. Sometimes you need to see from the biblical perspective and not what this world tells you. Post-war, Luxembourg has made efforts at Holocaust remembrance and restitution for victims' property. Belgium. Nazi Germany occupied Belgium in 1940. The Jewish population in Belgium was subjected to systemic deportations beginning in 1942. Yes, when the biblical God is protecting you, this does not happen. Approximately 25,000 Jews from Belgium were deported mainly via the Dawson internment camp to Auschwitz. Only about 1,244 of the deported Belgian Jews survived. Monaco's small Jewish population faced persecution and deportation under Nazi influence. Spain under Franco remained officially neutral during World War II, but had significant political and ideological alignment with Nazi Germany. Though it never officially joined the Axis powers, Spain collaborated with the Nazis in various ways. Of course they would. They were under a Catholic monarchy, and the Catholic Church knew about the death camps. Do you put it to, I mean, I don't think people stop and think, like, it's a church that knew about the most horrific antichrist murders going on, and they didn't do the right thing. The Spanish intelligence service worked closely with German intelligence, including cooperation in sabotage operations against British-controlled Gibraltar. The Germans had intelligence bases in Spanish Morocco and mainland Spain and cooperated with local, mostly anti-British Spanish agents. The regime compiled registers of Jews in Spain and added Jewish identity to official documents reflecting underlying anti-Semitic policies. Spain permitted tens of thousands of Jews to transit through Spanish territory from Vichy, France, but did not actively protect the wider Jewish population in Europe from the Holocaust. No, because the Catholic Church was collaborating. I don't know how else you can look at it when they knew about the death camps. That's from their own Vatican archives. So think about the brainwashed Catholics that can't see, that have not had the scales removed from their eyes. They knew about the death camps. They knew. So put it together. When you're a country that says, no, we don't want to go with, we don't believe what the Protestants say, and you decide, no, we want a Catholic monarchy, then this is the result. Then God says, there you go. You got your Catholic monarchy. Did your Holy Father intervene and help stop the murder or persecution of your people? No, he didn't. Because he's a false church. And had you stuck with the Bible, if you stuck with God, and stopped looking for the church to be your God, then you'd be protected. That's the way it works. I've said this for years, that God protects some nations and he hands others over. And it's usually based on the people. See, the difference in England is the people were demanding no Catholic monarch, and God was on board with that. And so God helped make sure that they were outed. Here, Kennedy, he didn't protect Kennedy. Again, because it was trying to bring the Catholic false church into the government. So, I'm sorry if people don't like that. It's just important to sometimes stop looking at everything the way this world tells you to look at it, and look at it from the biblical perspective, because I think that's what God expects you to do. When all of these countries I just mentioned, Monaco, Belgium, Luxembourg, and Spain, all have had Catholic monarchies, a continuous one for 500-600 years, then can you see why they fell victim to the Holocaust? Because God has not been protecting their country. I don't care how big their cathedrals are. God does not allow another church to outdo him. And when they claim that that's the Holy Father there and that's what you want, then God says, well, I allow free will. There you go. You have your Catholic monarch. Look at what your people have suffered because of it. And then look at the nations that pushed away having a Catholic monarchy and put together, what is God trying to say to you?